very lucky this week to have with us somebody who would probably be embarrassed to be called an expert on the Camino, but someone who is almost an integral part of the Camino, I think. And Rebekah Scott's joining me today. Rebekah, you're an author, you've written books about the Camino, you're very closely involved with the Camino in charitable work. You actually live on the Camino in a beautiful little village. How do you pronounce it, Moratinos?
Moratinos, yes.
Yes.
It's not very beautiful, really. We'll do our best, but it's very much a working town.
It is. It is. I've had the pleasure of walking through it twice. So I would love to ask you about one of your main focuses on the Camino, and that's Peaceable Projects. So we're not talking about hiking gear or anything this week. I'd love to hear about Peaceable Projects and how it came about and what kind of work you do along the Camino.
Okay, well, my husband and I, my husband's English, his name's Patty. We've lived here on this village on the Camino for 14 years, I think. And we've always had an open door for pilgrims who stop by. We used to be the only place in town for pilgrims. And that has all evolved over time. Now there are 2 other places for pilgrims to stay. People make their living from that, so we don't want to compete with them. So we kind of got more away from the actual hospitality and more into the infrastructure, the keeping the donativo principle alive on the Camino, the traditional hospitality that doesn't ask for money in exchange for food and shelter. And that's one of my motivations for coming here initially. But Peaceable Projects rose up out of, I used to help to run an albergue over by Castro Jerez called San Anton. It's in a ruined monastery.
Yeah.
For 3 years, I helped to coordinate the volunteers who helped to run it. And we did a whole lot of infrastructure work there and some architecture and things. But when I first came there and first took over the staffing, we went there early in the season to get it opened up. And we were cleaning up, and I had a vacuum there, a big commercial vacuum and a generator to run it. There's no electricity there. And I pulled the mattresses off the beds, the big bunk beds. They're old army bunk beds. These are these old ticking mattresses with the stripes. Yeah. And I was vacuuming them and very carefully getting all of that crud off of them. And they were falling apart in my hands. They were rotten. They were opening up along the seams, and the stuffing was coming out. They were just done. There was no hope for them. And we were opening in 4 days. Oh. And the mattresses were done. And I thought, what will we do? Where do we get mattresses for all these beds? There were 12, I think. So I went online. And all the contacts I had online, within, I think, 24 hours, we had 1,200 euros to buy 12 new mattresses. Wow. And I was quite taken with that, the fact that people were so ready to help out when the need was so apparent. And I started doing that a bit more when I found a need along the Camino. I'd ask for some money, and boom, boom, it would come in so fast. And my son is a lawyer in the United States. He told me this is going to create a tax problem for me. So he said, we'll create a nonprofit for you. And he did, God bless him. And so we became incorporated as a nonprofit in Massachusetts, where he works outside Boston. And the Peaceable Projects was born. We only had about 3,000 euros in the bank, but we used that for urgent needs on the Camino. There's lots of very, very popular and very effective groups that raise money in the US and Canada and other places for the Camino's needs, infrastructure needs, but these were more aimed for the emergencies that can't wait for the board meeting and can't wait for that application process. So that's how it was born. And this has been 4 years ago, and we've done a whole lot of projects since. And it also encloses the other projects we had going here, which is a Camino Cleanup. Once a year, we have a group of volunteers that come. The ditch pigs, yes.
Yeah.
And this way we can ask people to help support ditch pigs and buy us our plastic bags and our litter wagons and pay for our gas, and we spend a week picking up trash in the wintertime. That was that was our first real project, was the litter pickup. We've been doing that for more than 10 years now.
And actually, that's probably a good time to remind people who've never walked a Camino, please don't throw your trash everywhere because there's so much of it and it's really unsightly. Yeah, I mean, carry your stuff out, folks.
And that includes your bodily waste. You don't figure something out to do with that. Anyway, the other more visible project we have is the Memorial Grove outside Astorga. When we memorialize the pilgrims who die along the Camino, and people like to put up memorials along the trail, but those are very easily destroyed or vandalized or just fall away. And this way, there's a more permanent place that is cared for by the city. It's kind of struggling along. I live too far away from Astorga to really keep a close eye on it, but it's there too for people who lose a loved one. They can have a permanent little plaque to memorialize their loved one, and it will be cared for and not abandoned along the way.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful place to stop. I stopped there a couple of years ago.
There's a little chapel there too. We can we have the blessing of the local bishop, and we can arrange to have memorial services or masses said there. So it's kind of a full service place, but we're struggling with getting the word out and with working with the city there. Every time the council changes hands, we have to renegotiate everything. So
oh, really?
It's a challenge. It's an ongoing challenge.
Does the local council not want it there, or don't want to?
No, they're really very supportive, but they all have their own ideas or the complete lack of awareness of it. It's a challenge. I really wish somebody would rise up to take it over for me, but I guess I just have to keep praying for that one.
Now we should, before I forget, we should put a link down below this video, and we might show a few screenshots from your website, Peaceable Projects, and there's a link on there where people can actually donate. I guess the whole point of this is that any donations are going to donativo projects, so that's all not-for-profits. So it's these albergues and so on that survive just on people's sponsorship, and also, you know, upkeep of the grove and helping clean up and so on. So I mean, it's fantastic work that you do. What are some of the projects that you have in the pipeline? Or are they really just emergencies?
People always ask that. But we never know. Our whole ideal is to be there when something blows up. So we don't know what's coming down. We do have some larger infrastructure things. Last November, we found out that the big convent albergue in Salgoon, which is right outside my back door, is needed a completely new plumbing system, or they were going to be shut down. That was miraculous. People came out of the woodwork to give money to that. And we also had a legacy. Someone left us some money, and we were able to give these guys 22,000 euros, which is kind of blows my mind. We're pretty small and low to the ground. I never thought I'd be handling that kind of money, but we still. My favorite thing though is little discretionary things. There's a discretionary fund in this that I can give small amounts to nonprofits, like this Franciscan monk guy. Or not a monk, a friar. He needed shoes to finish his Camino. His sandals wore out, so I can just give him. Either give him the money or give him the shoes. And the money comes from these donors, and he can walk. And that's what it's about. It's getting mattresses for places, and we also do in-kind kind of things. A place down on the Via de la Plata needs beds. We can find the beds in Astorga and pay the guys to ship them down. It's so there's no real money involved. It's just finding materials and getting them to where they're needed.
Oh, that's fantastic work. And I guess after a while, people kind of get to know. If we have a drama, we'll call Rebekah.
Well, that's not. it's hard to break into the Spanish. There's like a cacique, a little group of people who. I do have some very good connections, but I do know that there's a lot of people who don't know who we are, and I do like to keep a low profile because there are some people out there who like to take advantage and things like free money.
Yeah.
But happily, I'm also on a board of FIX, the Fraternidad Internacional del Camino de Santiago, a group of very well-connected, very smart founders of this Camino. I can run things past them, and they know where the bodies are buried and who's for real.
Yeah.
So it's good. Things are working out well for Peaceable Projects.
Peaceable Projects.
And also, if you're American, it's tax deductible, your contributions. So.
We want lots of people watching from America. We'll put the link down below. And if you don't mind, I'll also put a link to your latest book about life in Moratinos. Remind me of the name of it. I read it a couple of months ago.
It's called A Furnace Full of God.
Yeah.
It's a memoir of a year in the life here, about 10 years ago. And it's a true story.
It's a fascinating read. And I think if you wonder what it's like to live on the Camino and be involved in the way that Rebekah is involved, you'd love reading that too. So we'll put a link for that down below as well. Excellent. So Peaceable Projects, don't forget it. Check it out. So thank you for joining us this week, Rebekah, and thank you for watching. If you enjoy the conversations, the chats on this channel, do think about subscribing, hit that bell button, and you'll get notified every time we have a new video coming out. And they come out every Wednesday. Thank you for joining us, Rebekah. We'll have to have another chat very soon.